cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find, spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizard flow, life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow.
Happy New Year, 8 o'clock on the dot on this, the first day of 2025. Remember yesterday where I said, well, Wizards has made it pretty through 2 whole weeks without getting into... Nope. We end/start the news with, once again, Wizards of the Coast in trouble and being dumb. I'm drinking coffee. Now you might be wondering why this picture of this handsome elvish detective from Shadowrun is looking at you in the face, and that's because this picture is not from Shadowrun or any other steampunk type fantasy type game or Iron Kingdoms or Eberron. Nope, it's from Dungeons and Dragons. And so we have a D&D character in a combat wheelchair, wielding a gun, wearing a duster and sunglasses, fighting robots. Because nothing says medieval fantasy like an elf in a wheelchair, a copper steam-powered wheelchair, with a gun and a duster and jeans and a vest and sunglasses, fighting robots. Now, if this was from Shadowrun, I'd be like, okay, fine. Or any other steampunk, Old West, Weird West type game, I'd be like, sure, why not? But this isn't. This is from Dungeons and Dragons. This is the type of art they want you to go and look at and go, yeah, that totally makes me want to play Conan. That totally makes me want to go crawling through a dungeon. That totally makes me want to fight undead. This is what characters in the fantasy medieval look like. No, this is a steampunk elf wearing an Old West duster. This is a Weird West picture. It's not a Dungeons and Dragons picture. So obviously, because we just cannot seem to wrap our head around the art choices that Wizards has been making for Dungeons and Dragons, we're looking at this picture going, what's up? What is this? You have better art. We know you have better art. What is this? This, of course, spirals into our main Wizards of the Coast story. Let's just get right on that, shall we? Bring that up. If you haven't seen this thing yet, DandD brought it to our attention yesterday, and then it's been making its way across all the news. The New York Times, a very left-leaning periodical, and Fox News, a very right-leaning periodical, have both posted stories about the changes to the Dungeons and Dragons species, races, heritages, whatever you want to call them. And people are upset about it. It is controversy. Some character traits have been divorced from biological identity. That's a very big word that has absolutely nothing to do with the topic, but it's good to know that whoever originally wrote this story knows big words like divorced from biological entity. Not how you'd use that word, but whatever. So this is the Fox responding to the other story, responding to people like Rob Kuntz and people who are actually, associated with Dungeons and Dragons, as opposed to Jason Tondo, calling out the changes and how in Wizards of the Coast, in their desperate attempt to step away from the previous racist allegories of the Player's Handbook, which don't exist and never have adopted this more anybody can be anything GURPSification of Dungeons and Dragons. Mountain Dwarf means absolutely nothing. You don't get any innate bonuses or disadvantages for being a Mountain Dwarf. It's pointless because anybody can now pick and choose through the abilities to build the very specific character they want. You start the game as a green glob of goop and then just Mr. Potato Head. Here's my half tiefling, half dragonborn, half dwarf, half elf, half Goliath, half peanut butter and jelly sandwich character. So yes, mainstream news. World's covered it and used a lot of big words in there. From a pragmatic standpoint, uncoupling ability score increases from species, not only removes the problematic bioessentialism of the game, but also makes the game more marketable to a wider variety of players. Hey, you want to play a fantasy game where there's no such thing as fantasy in it? And you can just build whatever you want? Isn't that GURPS? So yeah, a lot of people using very big words because I guess that makes them sound more scientifically knowledgeable. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I use the word uncoupling. Again, not how you use that word. So let's go. Races are now species in the Dungeons & Dragons. We've done about that for one. Also, people are going, well, why are you talking about this now? We've known for a while that Wizards of the Coast is doing that. I guess real news is slow. It's the last day of the year. It's not like we have anything more important to talk about other than the people who saw Venus in the sky and thought it was a UFO. Way to go, guys. I don't know what that is in the sky. It's Venus. It looks like a UFO. It's Venus. Some character traits have been divorced from biological entity. A mountain dwarf is no longer inheritant, brawny, or durable. A high elf is no longer intelligent or dexterous by definition. The reporter says, and Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons publishers, blah, 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 has endorsed this trend throughout the game, and where players are empowered to halt the proceedings if they feel uncomfortable. Of course, we're talking about the brand new rule regarding safety tools, as opposed to, hey, let's talk about this in session 0, which is not something that Wizards of the Coast invented, as much as they would like you to think they invented the idea of session 0, but no. This new thing is now is like, if you don't like, it's hard. It's in the DM's guide. It's in the player's handbook. If you don't like something that's going on in the game, you can just stand up and make an X over yourself like you're a pro wrestler or a wounded athlete and demand that the DM stop whatever he's doing and remove the offensive content or else. Because they want people to think the game is safe, inclusive, thoughtful, and sensitive approach to fantasy storytelling. Because remember, until 2014, well, no, until yesterday, it wasn't. It's never been inclusive until right now. All those people who thought they were playing Dungeons & Dragons for the past 50 years, wart, because it's never been inclusive. And then for some reason, we've got a picture of this guy. I don't know. And Rob Coots and some of the other people, of course, responding, going, it's unnecessary. It's fantasy. It's an attempt to play into something that I'm not sure even exists, which is true because it never existed. Wizards of the Coast changed the rules because they felt players wanted more creative leeway. But some have attempted it. Some have slammed it because it gets away from the art game's authenticity, and in its attempt to not be racist, it is now more racist than ever. This, of course, is all part of the whole blah, blah, Wizards has gone woke, and now the wokeification is ending. And the wokeification is ending. And even as a leftist who has been accused of being a woke communist, I don't mind if some of the wokeification fades away because most of it's been dumb. And I'm saying that as an LGBTQ Jewish disabled Democrat. And even I'm like, yeah, you've gone too far. It's a game. So I would like to know who's making these complaints, because according to EN World, these are good things. It's not dooming the players. It's okay, because this is what players wanted. Well, if players wanted this, they wouldn't be complaining about it, because the people complaining about this aren't me, right? We've said all we have to say about Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons 2024, right? I think we have, haven't we? We know we have a vast majority of the tabletop role-playing game community that is, affectionately referred to as the old school, claiming, well, I don't play D&D anymore. I don't run D&D. I don't have anything connection with Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons. What they do or do not do with the game does not and should not upset me, because I'm not giving them any money, which would, for the most part, be true. Except, of course, really what we're upset about is the accusations that are associated with this bizarre. Why does my room seem darker when all my lights are perfectly working? I guess it's just old age. It's not that I'm upset, that you're making changes to the game. It's your game. You can do whatever you want. I'm not playing it. I'm not running it. I don't care. What's upset is the accusations about people like me who've played the game for 40 years and this reverse racism that you have adopted in your attempt to not be racist and inclusive. You've actually made the game as if not more racist and even less inclusive. So that's, and the accusations that Gygax and people who played before yesterday were these horrible, racist, homophobic, people who didn't allow people like me to play. According to your logic, I have not played Dungeons and Dragons because people like me weren't allowed to play Dungeons and Dragons. So my 40 years of D&D history, I imagined. And playing role-playing games with people of, all colors of skin, all sexual and gender identities, multiple different religions, weight, skin color, age, economic, gender, blah, you name it. I played with them. You could say, oh, you ever play with a drag queen? I could go, yes, I did. You ever play with a trans? Yes, I did. You ever played with a homeless person? Yes, I did. You ever play with an extremely conservative individual who, hates all the things you are? Yes, I did, because it never came up during the game. The game embraced you all. So the core of the issue of the complaints is, well, who's making these complaints? That it drove up enough media frenzy that on the last day of the year, when we had absolutely nothing else to talk about other than Venus, we made multiple articles about it. Rob Kuntz, well, yeah, but I mean, in the great epic scale of entertainment, who the fuck is Rob Kuntz? That's not a common household name like, say, Samuel L. Jackson. So one old man shaking his little cage and going, how dare you? It's not worth mainstream news going, we should probably talk about this because that guy. No. In order for this to reach the ears of mom and pop mainstream news, there would have to be a rather loud roar of individuals going, hey, this is not what we want. Well, that loud roar of individuals isn't the quote unquote old school. It's the people who are actually spending money on the game. And that's what the articles that are defending it are missing or failing to mention. And that the articles that are, supporting the accusations of, hey, people don't want this, don't really follow up on. So you got to chip away at the ice here to get to the kernel of the story. And the kernel of the story is people who are actually playing Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons today are the ones saying, I do not want this. The token audience that you're trying to market your game to doesn't exist. And sure, there's a few people who are saying they do. If you read the comments on these articles, whether you're on Facebook, Reddit, or whatever, and you scroll through the contents, it's like, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. There's, wait. Was that the Madeline Kahn thing from Blazing Saddles? No, History of the World. It's History of the World. The comments would further allow people like myself to believe that most of the complaints regarding this issue are not coming from me and my fellow angry, useless, ineffective old school members, but mom and pop 5e player. The people who are spending money on Wizards of the Coast product are taking this product home going, I want to play X. I am so excited to reenact what I saw on TV, movie. Where is that? Now I'm just playing a glob of glue that I can Mr. Potato Head on whatever advantages and disadvantages I want, and then plop them out in this milk toast fantasy game of elvish detectives wearing dusters, wielding guns, and on a wheelchair. I don't want that. I want my mountain dwarf to be a mountain dwarf. I want my tiefling to be a tiefling. I want my peanut butter and jelly sandwich to be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't want this glob of forced virtue signaling. That's what the comments on these articles are saying. You know, it's no. And then there was one person going, well, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. It's a game. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to do what Wizard says. That's not the point, dude. Read the room. And then there's like, no. And then there's another person who's like, no, I'm playing it. I'm fine with it. I played to the game, but I had a very specific character I wanted to play. I wanted to play a half elf, half dwarf, half tiefling, half Goliath, half peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And now, thanks to the GURPSification of Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons, I can play that. Again, that's not the point. That's not what you're, I'm totally okay with. No. What you're saying is I wanted to play a different game, but I don't have the wherewithal to do the research to discover that there already are games out there that let me play half dwarf, half elf, half tiefling, half Goliath, half peanut butter jelly sandwich. Those games do not have the word Dungeons and Dragons in the name. They have names like Powered by the Apocalypse, Savage Worlds, GURPS, Champions, point-based systems designed around the idea that your character starts like a green glob of goo, and then you can Mr. Potato Head, all the advantages and disadvantages you want. So at the end of which, I'm a mountain dwarf, or I'm a half dwarf, half elf, half peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So that's what you're saying. You're not saying I totally understand and get these changes. By doing this, this makes the game more approachable, because nothing says medieval fantasy that I saw on Stranger Things like, what is this? I don't understand. Am I just supposed to build whatever character I want? There's no more exclusive orcs. There's no more exclusive elves. There's no more exclusively dwarvishy dwarfs. I can't reenact Lord of the Rings because that's not in here. Orcs are no longer evil. Well, orcs are no longer evil. We're just going to replace orcs with another evil race because players want to bash something on the head and not feel guilty about it. So if it's not orcs anymore, it'll be something else. Oh, it's bandits now. It's demons. There has to be an inherently evil race to justify us bashing it over the head. Fantasy adventure is built around good versus evil, defending the town, individuals coming together to form the fellowship. That's what I spent $55 on. That's what Santa brought me this new player's handbook because that's what I wanted to play, and that's not what I'm being given. Wizards of the Coast has once again taken the product and addressed it to facilitate an audience that doesn't exist, leaving us with starting the year looking once again at Wizards of the Coast and going, oh my freaking God, like I expected anything else. What was I thinking? But that's so Wizards!
Laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands all around us, cast away our care. friends in the hallways, adventures we find, spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizardful, life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow, that's a wizard show. Mischief in the